Oh, so welcome everyone who is watching. I'm really excited for you guys to meet Lindsey today. She is a wealth of knowledge for book marketing, so we're very happy to have her here. I'm going to introduce her quickly, and then I'm going to let her start talking, and I'm going to go through and find the feed to make sure that if you have questions for us while we're talking, we can actually answer them for you. So this is Lindsey Hartz. And she's been the lead marketing consultant and book launch strategist at Hartz Agency for about 10 years. And then last year, she transitioned over and started Ignite Faith Media because she wanted to work with authors more comprehensively for the long term of their careers and provide deeper opportunities for them and for readers to connect with one another for growth and community, which is such an amazing, amazing mission to have. So Lindsey, welcome. Is there anything that I didn't mention that you wanted to cover before we get started?
Oh, no, it's great. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So like I said, if you have questions for us while we are chatting here, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We're happy to answer them. But I wanted to get started with a little bit of background because I don't think that we've actually talked about what inspired you to go into book marketing.
Oh, gosh, that's a great story. A lot of people in the book marketing industry come from publisher work. So they may work at a publisher, a traditional publisher, and branch out on their own, either through publicity or social media or book marketing. Mm-hmm. I actually started out in corporate marketing, project management, sales training in a Fortune 500 company that had nothing to do with books or anything that was kind of a tangible positive effect on people's lives. It was a great company, but we were selling, auto loans.
Yeah.
So not necessarily in the creative field. About 15 years ago, we were just walking through a challenging time in our life. And one of the steps we took to kind of move through that period was for me to leave work in the corporate world and come home. Mm-hmm. I spent a couple of years raising my babies, who at the time were 5 and 3. They're now 18 and 20 and out of the house, which is super weird, but also really awesome. And, through the ensuing years, I really did a lot of heart and soul work, a lot of therapy, just trying to figure out, what I wanted from life. And I had a therapist who assigned assigned writing to me because she knew I loved to read and I had written a lot as a child. Mm-hmm. So through my writing exercises, I found a newfound love for having a voice through a lot of really difficult things that I was experiencing and questions I was having. Mm-hmm. And I got connected with a lot of authors online and at different events. And this was back before social media was really a thing. So my husband thought it was really weird that I was traveling to conferences and staying in hotel rooms with people I didn't know. He would actually have me text him, I'm alive, like every 5 minutes. But anyway, a lot of the conversations that kept happening were my author friends saying how much they disliked marketing. Either they didn't like it at all, or it was a huge struggle. And I remember thinking, well, that's interesting because I don't find it difficult at all. And I'm a creative too. Yeah. So for me, that was kind of the genesis of this seed planted in my head that maybe I could help authors. And I started my marketing agency just helping out a few friends. I had no business plan. It was very much just help my friends with their book releases. And 10 years later, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it's been really incredible and very fulfilling.
Oh, that's such a cool story. I'm glad I asked that. Yeah. So, you got into that. And so since you came from marketing, I imagine you have a slightly different perspective from most of us. But I wanted to kind of open up here and talk about what book marketing actually is, because I think we hear a lot of terms thrown out. There's PR, there's marketing, there's, social media. Like, what is book marketing and how is it different from PR?
Oh, that's a great question. the first thing that came to mind when you asked that question is actually more of a mindset definition.
Okay.
I tell a lot of my clients that marketing is a marathon, not a sprint, right? So you have to kind of go into the marketing process with the awareness that it shouldn't be just short-term goals. There should be long-term goals incorporated into the marketing plan, and you need to have the resilience and perseverance to navigate the ups and downs and highs and lows of marketing, because it will happen no matter how prepared you are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I come from old school marketing in the corporate world, and marketing foundations and then the project management foundations to manage a marketing product or project, those don't change. Those are the same across any industry. What changes are the tools and resources we have available within the context of marketing and project management. So in my world, marketing can be defined in, we'll say 5 stages, and then I'll answer the question about publicity. Okay. But marketing to me in the beginning is about mindset. I'm really understanding that marketing is not a dirty word. It's a tool and a resource, again, that you can use in order to reach audience members. I also think mindset has to do with how you perceive yourself as a communicator and a passionate advocate of your own work. So a lot of times we do a lot of work in really identifying the marketing and communication strengths that you have as an author, because every author has them, even if they can't recognize them. And once we're able to define those things, it actually takes the laundry list of 1,000 things you could do for a book marketing campaign or a launch, and it narrows it down to the items that fit into the context of your voice, your message, and your personality. So immediately some of the overwhelm, kind of goes from here to here. The second part of marketing is really the platform piece that we're all aware of. How do you attract or repel readers? Because you need to be able to do both. You want people to come to your message that really need it, and you want to repel people that maybe don't. And hopefully they can find someone else that fits into what they're looking for. But that has to do with websites, social media, email marketing, offline events, that sort of thing. How do you get your work in front of potential readers, and then get them to stay with you throughout your journey so that eventually they can buy the book? Third stage of marketing is launch, the product launch, book launch, the whole process that goes into selling what you have to offer. And then we dive into what we call ongoing promotion, which is what do you do after the book's released, which is usually at least a year of monthly marketing activities. And then the final phase is building business or ministry around the book message. Not everybody wants to do that, but some do. And if that is your situation, if you want to build a meaningful income around the book, then that's the 5th stage of marketing. So you see, I feel like a lot of authors think, oh, marketing is just talking about my book on social media and in my email list. But it's actually a whole holistic cycle of your entire business or ministry that you need to be taking into consideration. And when it comes to publicity, there are actually different types of publicity. There's paid publicity, which is usually your ads. There are article placement, sponsorship ads, that sort of thing. There is media publicity. That is a hard word to say today, which is, where your publisher or a publicist you've hired is getting you placement into articles or interviews that have gatekeepers. Gatekeepers meaning, the editorial or acquisitions staff or whomever is the person between the host and you making that decision. Organic publicity is something that we actually focus on because we can also teach authors how to locate and book their own interviews. And even to some extent, some shows, they're just not as high tier. It's not going to be the Today Show at first, right? It might be a local show or a regional show. But the whole point there is that you can leverage those opportunities to become more well-known. And then eventually you can pitch those higher shows yourself, or you can hire a publicist. So that's the main difference between marketing and publicity, and then all the areas that are involved in marketing.
That was a really good comprehensive look at all of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So knowing all of that, and that there are all these tiers and all these different pieces that you need to look at. So what should the author's goal be with their marketing? Should they be looking at like, oh, I want to sell a whole bunch on the day it's launched, or they should be looking at, other things? What do you usually tell them?
I mean, it really depends on their future goals for the business or the ministry. And,
Mhm.
and what I mean by that is some of my authors, well, okay, let me take a step back. Everybody wants to sell a meaningful number of books because that's a tangible way to validate, oh, my work matters.
Right.
And someone bought it and now they're reading it and they're gifting it to friends,
Mhm.
our family. In the traditional publishing world, the number of books purchased is actually used to give more data and fodder for their buyers to go sell the books in more online and offline retailers. So
Mhm.
they often try to sell X number of books so that we can try to get it placed, in
Okay.
more distribution. In the self-publishing world or a hybrid publishing world, that pre-order part is not as important for that reason. But it can show momentum, around the book. So, having said that, I view the number of books sold more as a data point than the end goal, right? It's a data point that helps us make decisions. So, if we're not selling enough books after, a promotion campaign or an email promotion series, then we need to adjust those things to increase sales. But ultimately, the goals for authors really depends on what you truly want to do with that message. So, for example, I have an author coming into a program of mine who is writing their first book, but wants to be a speaker and teach organizations their framework. So the focus isn't actually on book sales, it's on the book being kind of a precursor to booking him for his speaking career,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So I find that most authors have individual goals. And if we identify that up front, then the whole marketing campaign can be crafted around all the goals, not just selling X number of books in a certain time period.
Mhm. Okay. I just got to notice that the feed is frozen, so I'm not sure what's going on.
I hope I'm
Um,
not making a weird face.
I, it looks like it started moving again, but I was making a weird face. So hopefully everybody forgets that. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense, looking at what their overarching goals are for the book and, how they want to do that for their marketing. Okay, so that's good to know. Not everybody's going to have the same goals.
Mm-mm.
Um, so something else I was wondering here, since there is so much that authors, when we come into it, we don't know what we don't know.
Mhm.
And I find that a lot of what I do is, okay, let me educate you on this piece. Let me educate you on this piece. So if a new author approached you,
Mhm.
what is it that they really need to know to wrap their heads around what they need to do? Is there something you can say like, start here, think about this?
Well, we start with the end in mind, which is what I was alluding to earlier. We really
Okay.
do a lot of mindset and heart work in the beginning of projects because, from a strategic standpoint, it eliminates unnecessary activities because unnecessary activities can result in random acts of marketing that
Yeah.
are going nowhere. It also is a waste of time and money and resources, right? And my job as the marketer is to help make the process really efficient, but as simple as possible for the author to execute and implement, right?
Mhm.
So we always start with that end goal in mind. And then, like I said, we go into the mindset because I feel like a really healthy mindset about what marketing is and how they can contribute to it from the beginning makes it more comfortable for them to share their message.
Mhm.
I think the other thing too is you really do need to have some sort of platform. It doesn't mean it has to be huge. I would rather you have a quality platform over a quantity platform.
Mhm.
So, what I mean by that is that you are doing work to attract the exact right readers to your message.
Mhm.
We alluded that I had an agency for 10 years that I just shut down, and I ran a very successful, lucrative business for 10 years with roughly 5,000 social media followers and maybe 2,000 people on my email list.
Mhm.
The reason that I was able to run a successful business had to do with reputation and brand, but also skill set, but also because I was attracting the exact right people. I wasn't trying to throw a wide net and collect anybody and everybody that could ever possibly, maybe, sort of, kind of might want to listen to me, right? Or
Right.
learn from me. I
Yeah.
was very specific in the type of people I wanted to draw to me, both because I want them to be able to kind of resonate with my marketing philosophy and mindset and my personality and my communication style. I wanted them to have the same heart mission that I have for books, to really transform people. And I wanted to make sure the projects were easy and fun to work on, because again, stuff doesn't always go right, and so you really need to have a good relationship with someone in order to be able to work with them. So that's what I would tell authors now, is even when you're writing the book, you need to actively be building and engaging an audience for that book. Don't wait till it's done, because that's typically too late, unless you have a really established audience already.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good lesson. And I think a lot of authors learn that the hard way, that they
Yeah.
publish the book and then they go, oh, nobody's buying it. Well, did you talk about it? Did you, put any effort forward? Are you buying your followers? I've seen a lot of that too. I purchased followers. I did this. And I'm like, that's not going to help you. So thank you for sharing all of that. That's really important stuff about the platform. Um, yeah, and I did want to talk too about your new endeavor, about Ignite Faith Media and your first program. So can you tell me, first of all, about Ignite Faith Media? And then I do want to talk about that new program.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was actually born out of a lot of personal change. I ran a marketing agency for 10 years. And the last couple of years, have been hard on everybody, just from a pandemic perspective. But for me, I also had some health stuff that was going on. I was approaching empty nests. My kids were moving out. And I suddenly found myself with a lot of time on my hands and a very strong desire to do something other than sit here and work all day long.
Yeah.
It's great when you're raising kids. It was necessary so that I could be home. And I really loved working with authors. But I also realized that I wasn't really in alignment with my true gifts. And what I mean by that is I was operating an agency, which is roughly 80 to 85% done for you work, implementation, execution, administrative work.
Mhm.
That is actually not my skill set. It is actually challenging for me to navigate that. I'm actually, a visionary leader. And it took me a long time to accept and receive that, and also to make the changes I need in order to fully operate in kind of my zone of genius. So that's what happened, is I shut the agency down because I'm not really a pivoter. I'm like, I'm just going to burn everything down and start over. But that has more to do with me. I knew that if I tried to pivot and try to pivot and try to pivot, I would never do it. So for me, it was like, okay, we're done with that. I'm going to move on. And so what I've done is Ignite Faith Media is the new company, and there's going to be two divisions. One division is called Ignite Your Book Marketing. That is the program that we are currently actively enrolling in. And it's a year-long marketing mastery program for authors who really want to build a long-term business or ministry out of their book message. And in that program, we're covering all those 5 areas of marketing that I referred to earlier. It's not just me, I'm the main visionary strategist, project planner, I'm really looking at the author business and ministry and coming up with that plan, right? Quarter by quarter, task by task. But I also have a social media strategist, a brand strategist, content strategist, launch administration, someone that can kind of help with the nuts and bolts of running a launch, and organic publicity. So all of us are available in one program, where normally you have to hire out for each of those pieces, right? And then we're really trying to cultivate a great group of authors that will rise together and support one another in your endeavors, because that's part of building a platform, is borrowing audiences or kind of engaging with peers. So it's very clear to all of our students that that is expected in the program, is to really collaborate with your peers. So that's this arm. It's the author education arm. On the other division is called Ignite Your Faith Community, and we are building a platform for our authors. So every individual author has their own web presence, their own social media, their own email list. And then a lot of time and effort is spent trying to get into other people's platforms to share your message with their work. Well, we decided to solve that problem for our students by creating our own platform to feature them on in addition to their own. So we are creating a reader community app, a podcast, a streaming service with documentaries featuring our authors, education, some devotional. There is some Christian focus, but there's also mindset and business and leadership focus. Kind of in this category. And then we'll also be doing live events, a magazine featuring articles. And way down the road, we might do a publishing imprint, or I might say, Corey, can you do this part? But my point is we're trying to build readers that need these messages. And we're trying to give these authors a platform so they can utilize those in their personal endeavors, but then so we can also really help people, who are really searching for hope and healing and transformation in many difficult areas of life that we all face.
Yeah, that is so amazing. And when you told me about it, that's why I said, okay, we need to talk about this some more. Because first of all, I love the idea of the community aspect of it. So there's not only learning about how to do all these pieces and having the experts there to teach you, but also supporting each other. So many, I don't know where this came from. I guess a lot of authors are introverts, but so many people feel like, okay, if you're going to write a book, you have to go hide in a dungeon somewhere or a closet or something. And you write this book and then it magically gets out to the world. And that's so not the case. A lot of this stuff is done in collaboration with other people. You need the conversation, you need the support. So I think this is such a wonderful thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're welcome. And I wanted to talk about the type of authors that you're looking for this program. So who would be right to sign up for something like this?
Yeah, so our authors typically fall into what we call the nonfiction transformational book. The program is not currently set up for fiction or children's books or what we'll call academia books, like how to do X, Y, and Z on a practical front. That has a lot to do with audience protection. And we want to make sure that the authors coming in will have an audience that can benefit the other people in the program. Yeah. Also, 95% of my experience marketing books has fallen in that range of books, along with all of my coaches, right? So we have a very distinct kind of genre that we tend to represent. And that's a benefit to have that collective knowledge. Almost all of us have worked with traditionally published books and self-published books and books all in between, right? So we know the drill. But what I'm specifically looking for are books that are transformational in nature, and that can apply to a few different things. Mm-hmm. Faith is a huge component of my life. I am a Christian, and so I do represent a lot of authors that fall into that Christian category. Mm-hmm. But I also have a lot of authors that their books may not be overtly Christian books, but they are as a person, which usually means the elements of faith or principles of faith or kind of the outflow of their faith shows up in their books, right? The way they teach, the way they interact. But then also, I have clients who write business leadership books or how to communicate with people who are rude to you, Yeah. And so really it's authors that have a message that can provide growth, healing, or hope in areas like faith, business, mindset, life. I would say life struggles, right? We've all been through the ringer at one point or another in our lives.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of that transformative, I've been there, and this is what I learned from it. And here's maybe a step or 2 or 10 that can help you move forward in your life and not remain stuck.
Yeah, makes total sense. You said growth, healing, and hope. And I was like, that really encompasses all of it. Yeah, I think a lot of the people that I work with are the same category of people too. Yes. So I thought that would be a really good crossover. So I didn't have any other questions for you. I was just wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to share about your work, about marketing, marketing a book in general. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Well, you brought up a good point that I don't think I mentioned about the community. And so it's called Ignite Your Faith Community. But on the website, when we actually release the app, it's going to show our definition of faith. And there's the very obvious Christian faith aspect. Mm-hmm. But, people also need to ignite faith in themselves, in their life and their mindset and their business and their ability to move forward and like draw up resilience and perseverance and maybe relearn things or reframe messages that have been harmful to them over the years. Yeah. So I know a lot of people keep asking me, is this just for Christian authors? And my comment to that is I mentioned it because it's very prevalent. A lot of the authors are faith-based, but not all of them are overtly, right? So that's something I think is important for people who want to be in the program to know, because we will talk about those things. But we believe that it's not our job to prescribe people's journey, right? We're just kind of planting seeds of hope and watering seeds of hope and faith. And if someone wants to learn more about it, they can, but we're not going to force the issue. We're just sharing our lives, right? And what's happened in our lives. So that's the first thing. The second thing about marketing in general, is really understanding, like, I know it feels kind of scary, but the biggest thing I hear authors say is, I'm a writer. I just want to write. And I'm like, good, because marketing is actually mostly just communicating your writing in a different form. Like, it's not really all that different. You can write out all your marketing copy. Mm-hmm. What you have to learn is how to be comfortable, passionately sharing about it. And I'll give you an example for me. I am probably the world's biggest introvert. And anytime I say that, people are like, because all they ever see of me are these interviews, or me speaking on stage. I'm like, yeah, because I had to grow into it. I had to learn how to not be so self-conscious and want to go hide in my room. I had to talk about my business and my ministry through it because it's what I feel like I've been purposed to do. I had to get over that. But I did it in a way where I can passionately share about my work without being uncomfortable. I love doing interviews. I love doing podcast interviews, and I love speaking on stage to an extent. I'm still a little freaked out about big groups. I'm getting there. But my point is, I can share about this passionately and not be overwhelmed by it because I just don't do all the other stuff. Right. I don't need to. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's the last message I want to leave with you all is you do not have to do about 90% of what you think you need to do. The real key is that mindset, that identifying your strengths, that eliminating things you don't need to do, and then strategically sharing your message in a way where your passion comes through, no matter how you're talking about the book or the message. And that's what marketing is storytelling.
Yeah. That was a wonderful wrap up. And I will say I am with you on being a big introvert too. I too had to grow through it and figure out how to get everything out in a way that's going to connect with people. So I think if introverts can do it, then everybody can do it. And marketing's not scary.
Yeah. And now you and I might need to go like hide in our bedrooms for 3 hours after this, but we did it, right?
Yeah. Actually, I'm probably going to go work on first grade spelling words. So
there you go.
But yeah, it's, finding the things that you can do and doing what makes sense. And I think you gave us so many good things to think about today. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. I didn't see any questions, but of course, if people have questions later, please make sure you drop them below. We're happy to answer them. So yes, thank you, Lindsey. And if you have questions for Lindsey about her program, is there a best way to reach you?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's ignitebookmarketing.com. And then also, I love Instagram. So you can connect with me there. It's lindsey.hartz.creative because Instagram won't let me change my name. And that was my original business name like 10 years ago, but whatever, I'm not bitter. But there, you can connect with me there and you can send me a message or, I answer DMs all the time. I'm not such a fan of Facebook. But yeah, you can connect with me there or take a look on the website at what we have to offer.
Awesome. Okay. Could you drop those links below when we wrap up? And then
Yes.
anybody needs to reach out to Lindsey, please do. I've read through some of the material for the information about this program, and it really does sound amazing. So again, thank you, Lindsey, for joining me today. And I hope everybody has an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you.